What's up guys, my name is Ben aka Sang and we are here again today with another Legion Pre-Patch preview. Today we're going to be looking at the Subtlety Rogue. For those of you who haven't seen the other videos, I am a raider with the guild Exiled Power. We are the top 2-day raiding guild on the US server Arthas. On the Horde side, we are 13 out of 13 Mythic Hellfire Citadel, averaging about 6 hours a week for raiding. I currently main a rogue named Nuckafubuck, who I've been playing for most of the expansion, and so I've just been going through looking at each of the specs for rogue that we're going to have coming up in the pre-patch in a few weeks, and then we'll be seeing this pretty much for all of Legion. This is kind of the basic framework that we're going to have to work with. So we're going to look at the spellbook, we're going to look at the talents, and I'm going to give my general kind of impressions and opinion on the class, and then I would love to hear your feedback and be able to answer any questions or thoughts you have. If you're looking at playing a rogue in Legion, I will do my best to help with that. So a couple disclaimers before we start. First and foremost, this is not a beta preview, so there are no artifact weapons being used here in this video. This is just the basic gear for a template rogue character, item level 680. So a lot of these new specs are going to have synergies with the artifact weapons in Legion. We will not have that to look at in this video, so all my opinions, where I have knowledge of the artifact weapons, I will try and give you some of that information, but there's not going to be just a whole lot of that. The second, we're also not going to talk just a whole lot about numbers and this is the spec you need to go to deal the most damage, just because classes are still being tuned a lot, and I don't want to give you information that's going to be bad pretty much as soon as you get it. And so my emphasis is mainly going to be on the playstyle of the class, what different talents, what different abilities are going to be useful for, and how it's going to play. So if you're thinking about playing a Subtlety Rogue, whether you're a hardcore raider like me and you want to min-max your damage and do all that to the best of your ability, or if you just want to play casually but you want to play Subtlety Rogue, I hope this video can kind of answer your questions for all of those things. So we'll go ahead and jump right in and start looking at the spellbook and looking at each of these abilities. A lot of these things are going to be the same. There are some things that have changed though with Subtlety, and we will kind of just talk about it as we go. So here we go. First, we still got Backstab. It's a 35 energy melee range ability. Note that all these require daggers. Subtlety is now, it requires 2 daggers for the spec. Backstab is where you stab the target, causing 9,394 physical damage. Your damage is increased by 30% when you are behind your target. So this is kind of an interesting change. You can backstab in front of the target right now. That's the way it's going to function. You don't have to be behind, but it does deal additional damage from behind. So Subtlety in Warlords of Draenor, if you were going to attack from the front for whatever reason, mainly if you had to, for like Mythic Archimon, you had to use Hemorrhage instead, or you could ambush, things like that. You couldn't backstab. Now you can backstab, it just deals more damage when you're behind. So obviously you want to be behind, but if for some reason you can't, it's not as big a deal. You don't have to use an entirely different ability. Next up, still have Evasion. It's a 2-minute cooldown that increases your dodge chance by 100% for 10 seconds. You can see that there. You get some purple glow action and then you go invisible. Still got Blind, kind of our crowd control, 15-yard range, 2-minute cooldown, where you blind the target, causing it to wander disoriented for 1 minute. Any damage will interrupt the effect, and that is a limit of 1 target. Still got Eviscerate as a finisher, 35 energy, 1 to 5 combo points. It's a finishing move that disembowels the target, causing damage per combo point. It's just your basic damage dealing finisher. Cheap Shot, still a thing, 40 energy melee range, requires stealth. You stun the target for 4 seconds, awarding 3 combo points. Feint is still here, 20 energy instant cast. You perform an evasive maneuver, reducing damage taken from area of effect attacks by 50%. And then I have a talent that also gives it all other damage, a 30% damage reduction for 5 seconds. So it's just your basic preemptive, you know a mechanic's coming, you know there's some AoE about to go out, or you're just trying to take reduced damage, you throw up Feint, and you will stay at the bottom of the damage taken meters. Your healers will love you, you will kill bosses, and you will be awesome, because that's what rogues do. Cloak of Shadows, still good defensive cooldown that we have. It's on a 1.5 minute cooldown. Provides a moment of magic immunity, instantly removing all harmful spell effects. The cloak lingers, causing you to resist harmful spells for 5 seconds. So this is huge. It's a great ability if you're not familiar with rogues. This is how you completely avoid mechanics. Sometimes you can solo mechanics that normally require multiple players just by using Cloak of Shadows. Just a great ability. Kick, still our interrupt here, instant cast, melee range on a 15-second cooldown. It's a quick kick that interrupts spell casting and prevents any spell in that school from being cast for 5 seconds. It's one of the longer lockouts in the game, so you can see you do like a little back heel kick there, pretty sweet. Crimson Vial is our new heal that requires 30 energy on a 30-second cooldown. I'll zoom in so you can see the animation. You drink an alchemical concoction that heals you for 30% of your maximum health over 6 seconds. You can see, you drink it, kind of looks like a little Estus flask if you're familiar with Dark Souls, and you have a heal ticking on you. Really strong, really nice, glad we got this. It's much better than Recuperate, it doesn't take any combo points. You just throw it up and you can continue to use damage. It does have that energy cost though. Kidney Shot, Subtlety Rogue still have this. 25 energy melee range stun on a 20-second cooldown. It's a finishing move that stuns the target and it lasts longer per combo point. So you can see at 6 seconds at its full duration. It's still got Distract. Nightblade is a new finisher that Subtlety Rogues have. It is a 25 energy melee range finishing move that infects the target with shadowy energy, dealing shadow damage over time and causing attacks against the target to reduce movement speed by 50% for 8 seconds, and it lasts longer per combo point. So this is kind of new. Subtlety does not have any real bleed gameplay to it anymore. Everything is shadow based. So this is the new dot. It's kind of taken the place of Rupture, but it's a shadowy Rupture, and you'll want to keep this up. Deals a lot of damage. You can see that's 108,000 over 16 seconds, and I don't have any kind of gear at all right now, and it's going to hit really hard. It's also got some PvP elements to it too. If you keep it up on the target, every attack reduces its movement speed by 50% for 8 seconds. So it's just going to be all around a good ability for PvP. And it's got good damage for PvE. Still got Picklock and Pickpocket and Sap. Those are all still there. Pickpocket, you just pick the target's pocket. Picklock, you open boxes. And Sap, you incapacitate a target not in combat for 1 minute. Only works on humanoids, beasts, demons, and dragonkin. Damage will revive the target, and that's a limit of 1 target, requiring stealth, so it's just like your basic crowd control. Shadow Strike is another new ability. It's kind of taken the place of Ambush for Subtlety Rogues. It requires 40 energy. It has a 20-yard range, which that's kind of crazy, right? So even way back here, and you can see it teleports you to it if you use it from range. So it kind of functions like Shadow Step. So Shadow Strike requires stealth. You strike through the shadows, appearing behind your target and dealing 25,933 physical damage, awarding 2 combo points. So whenever we start looking at Shadow Dance and kind of the stealth-based gameplay of Subtlety, Shadow Strike is the main ability you're going to be using for that. It's pretty cool that it's got the teleport to it as well. That's some nice movement utility for Subtlety Rogues. Shuriken Storm is kind of the new Phantom Knives, but a little bit different for Subtlety. It costs 35 energy, instant cast. You spray shurikens at all targets within 10 yards, dealing 1,066 physical damage. So the damage aspect of it is not huge, but it does award 1 combo point per target hit. So you can see, once again, it's got that shadowy kind of purple animation, looks really good. And for every target hit, you get 1 combo point. So you can see, if I do it over here, where is it? There. You can see I'm getting a lot of combo point generation from that. So that's nice. That's going to have some good utility for multi-target AoE for Subtlety. Shuriken Toss is also new. You can see the animation for it there. A little shadowy shuriken. You throw a shuriken at an enemy target for 5,886 physical damage, awarding 1 combo point. It's got a 30-yard range, so if you're having to run between targets for whatever reason, you can shuriken toss and build up some combo points. Shadow Blades is a new 3-minute cooldown that Subtlety has. It draws upon surrounding shadows to empower your weapons, causing auto attacks to deal shadow damage, and abilities that generate combo points to generate 1 additional combo point, lasting for 5 seconds. So you can see you throw it up, and you're generating more combo points. And while this is on the fly testing right here, so you can see that with Shuriken Storm, it doesn't give you. Well, I guess it does. It might be a bug because the tooltip says it awards 2 combo points per target hit, so that should have just given me 6 combo points if it hit all those targets, but I definitely only got 4, so it seems like it only awarded that 1 additional combo point, so that might actually be a bug. But yeah, it's just like your basic 3-minute cooldown. You deal additional shadow damage and you build combo points faster, so that's nice. Sprint still here. It increases your movement speed by 70% for 8 seconds, usable while stealth, so just normal movement speed increase. Shadow Dance, very, very different from how it is on Warlords of Draenor. I'm not super fond of the changes. I'll kind of get into more of that later, but let's go ahead and look at it. It got a 1-minute recharge. It allows use of all stealth abilities and grants all the combat benefits of stealth for 5 seconds. Its effect is not broken by taking damage or attacks from Shadow Dance, and for 6 seconds after deal 10% more damage. Okay, so this has got a lot of different things going on here. So first, it allows you to use abilities like you're in stealth. So when you pop Shadow Dance, you're going to want to use Shadow Strike, because that's going to deal a lot of your damage. It's going to give you most of your combo points, and it's going to give you some mobility because you can kind of blink around a little bit. Okay, so you can use your abilities that require stealth with Shadow Dance up. Okay, also, all your attacks while Shadow Dance is active and 6 seconds after, that's affected by a talent I have, will deal 10% additional damage. So basically this functions as your kind of DPS window, where you can pump out the most damage is when your Shadow Dance is up. And you can see it's got a 1-minute recharge. You can see you have 3 charges of that. And there will be other ways to get it back. You'll see when we get to passage later. You don't just have to wait on the recharge. But this is going to be where the major source of your damage is going to come from as a Subtlety Rogue. So at Stealth, obviously Shadow Step is now baseline. For Subtlety Rogues, it's got a 25-yard range and a 30-second cooldown. You step through the shadows to appear behind your target and gain 70% increased movement speed for 2 seconds. So you can see that there. So between that and Shadow Strike kind of having that blink baseline, we do have a lot more mobility than we had before, which we did lose burst of speed, so that's going to be useful. Symbols of Death is a new interesting ability for sub-rogues. It is a 35 energy instant cast 10-second cooldown, requiring stealth. Okay, you invoke ancient symbols of power, increasing all damage you deal by 20% for 35 seconds, and causing your next Shadow Strike to critically strike, and is unaffected by the global cooldown. So you could easily macro this in with any other ability that you're going to use while you have Shadow Dance up, or let's say if you vanished or something like that. But obviously you're going to want to keep this up pretty much all the time, because like you can see in the tooltip, there's 2 things going on here. First, there's just a flat damage increase by 20% for 35 seconds, and it's only on a 10-second cooldown, so there's really no reason you shouldn't be trying to keep this up all the time for the flat 20% damage increase. Okay, but also, it causes your next Shadow Strike to critically strike whenever you use it. So, you can see the crit chance for the Shadow Strike is on the 10-second timer of the ability. Okay, but your damage buff is on a completely different buff timer, so obviously you want to use it when you have the opportunity to get that Shadow Strike in, but you get the damage buff for the full 35 seconds. Those two things aren't connected. You're going to want to keep that up all the time. Like I said, it's not on a global cooldown, so you could easily macro that in with your Shadow Dance or your Shadow Strike or even Night Blade, just basically anything that you're going to use in stealth to use that and not have to worry about it. You don't even have to like click it separately or anything. Tricks of the Trade, still here, our ability to pass our threat onto somebody else for our opener, things like that. Vanish is still here. It's not going to have, at least at this point, as much interplay as it does like at the end of Hellfire Citadel, but it is nice in that it does allow you to use your Symbols of Death. It does allow you to Shadow Strike. It does allow you to do some more of those stealth-based abilities if you're in kind of like a dry spell portion of Subtlety, and we'll talk about that because there probably are going to be some dry spells. Alright, so let's look at the passives. Deepening Shadows is kind of the big important one. Your finishing moves have a 5% chance per combo point to grant an additional charge of Shadow Dance. So if you're doing a 5 combo point finisher, you're going to have a 25% chance for your finisher to completely restore a charge of Shadow Dance. And this is really nice because, so let's say I use a charge of Shadow Dance here. That's now on a 1 minute timer. Okay. If, let's say I use another charge and I get that proc, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't, we'll see. I'm not even using the right ability right now, sorry, I'm not paying a lot of attention. Okay, I'm having some bad RNG. If that were to proc, it doesn't just fill the timer and still leave me at 2 charges with a new full 1 minute timer. It just gives you a straight Shadow Dance buff, and whatever recharge time you have left on it is still there. So if you had 20 seconds and I had that proc, I would go to 2 charges of Shadow Dance with only 14 seconds until I have my third. So finishing moves are going to restore your Shadow Dance charges faster, and that's going to be really, really good because you do your most damage while Shadow Dance is up. So, and even if you chose to, it's kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but if you chose to run Deeper Stratagem and you used a 6 combo point finisher, that's a 30% chance. So that's an even higher chance to restore a charge of Shadow Dance, which could be nice. Fleet-footed is a passive that we have. Your movement speed is increased by 15% and you take reduced falling damage, so that's nice. Mastery for Subtlety has been changed. It's now called Executioner, and it increases the damage done by your finishing moves by 101%. So just in basic 680 green gear, it's 101% more damage to your finisher. So in really good gear, that's going to be much, much higher. In Legion, it's going to be even bigger, but just a flat damage increase on your finishing moves. That's pretty basic. Relentless Strikes is different. It's a shift from the way our combo points are generated in Warlords of Draenor. Your finishing moves, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. That's Shadow Techniques. Relentless Strikes is different. Your finishing moves have a 20% chance per combo point to generate 40 energy. So if you use a 5 combo point finisher, whenever you cast it, you will instantly regenerate 40 energy. So that's nice. It speeds up the gameplay for the class a little bit. So you can see I use my finisher and I've regenerated some of that energy. So that's really nice. Shadow Techniques, this is what I started to talk about a second ago. It's a passive where your auto attacks have a chance to generate a combo point. Okay, so this is a huge shift. So in Warlords of Draenor, other people critting in your raid could give you combo points, and there was an internal cooldown on that, so you couldn't just, if your entire raid was critting constantly, it's not like you had infinite combo points. It doesn't function that way anymore. It's just your auto attacks have a chance to generate it, and I don't know at this point at what rate that happens. Sometimes it seems like it happens very frequently, sometimes it seems like it doesn't happen ever, and your combo point generation from that at least seems to be much weaker than it is in Warlords of Draenor with the crit based generation, but there are some other things you can do to help out with that. So that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into the talents. This is where a lot of the gameplay changes are going to come from with Subtlety. So look at level 15 talents. You first have the option of a passive called Master of Subtlety, where attacks made while stealth and for 6 seconds after breaking stealth cause an additional 10% damage. So this is where that interplay kind of comes with Shadow Dance. So it allows it to not only give you access to stealth abilities, but it increases all your damage by 10% during that and for 6 seconds after. So because most of your damage is going to come from Shadow Play, that's where you're going to be using Shadow Strike, that's where you can throw up Symbols of Death, that's where you can do all these kind of major sources of your damage. It just buffs that, and it increases that by 10% and for 6 seconds after. Your other options are Weapon Master, which is a passive where your abilities have a 6% chance to hit the target twice each time they deal damage. And so this is just kind of like a passive that affects every ability that you're going to be doing. Everything that you do, every ability that you cast has a 6% chance to hit the target twice each time they deal damage. And so, I mean, I believe this is going to apply even to your dot ticks with Nightblade. I don't know if it's going to pop up on the combat log. I'll try and keep an eye out for it. But yeah, anytime your abilities deal damage, there's a 6% chance that it's going to do that again. Now 6% is not a huge chance, but it also kind of gives you some freedom in that if you run Master of Subtlety, you have to be really intentional about during your Shadow Dance, during a Vanish if you use it, really making sure you maximize the amount of damage you do because you get the 10% damage buff. Weapon Master is just, hey, when you're doing anything, there's a chance it might hit twice and deal more damage, and you don't really have to change anything, you just go through everything normally. Your other option is an ability called Gloomblade. It replaces Backstab, it costs 35 energy, and you puncture your target with your Shadow-infused blade for 10,283 shadow damage, awarding 1 combo point. So the energy cost is the same, the combo point generation is the same as Backstab, but it just hits harder. It's just like a shadowy Backstab that hits harder. Once again, it's not going to change your gameplay style at all. It's just going to cause your Backstab to hit a little bit harder. It's not a massive difference. It's going to hit a little bit harder. It looks like it's about a 10,000, or I'm sorry, not 10,000. Your Gloomblade deals 10,000 damage and your Backstab deals 9,300. So it's about 8,000 damage, which isn't a lot. It's not really a big deal, but once again, you don't have to change your gameplay at all. Personally, I think Master of Subtlety will be the best because it'll buff your Shadow Strike, it'll buff your whole Shadow Dance phase, and that's where you're going to be dealing most of your damage anyway, so a 10% damage buff on that and lingering after is really nice. Next up, you have your Stealth tier. So while Stealth or Shadow Dance is active, you move 20% faster and your abilities deal 15% more damage. So once again, this is just going to be even more of a buff on your damage during Shadow Dance, or even if you choose to Vanish, it's going to deal 15% more damage for all your abilities, which is really nice. Once again, most of your damage is going to come from Shadow Dance, so buffing that as much as possible seems like that could be a really strong option. Subterfuge is another passive you can use where your abilities requiring stealth can still be used for 3 seconds after stealth breaks, and it also increases the duration of Shadow Dance by 2 seconds. So normally your Shadow Dance is shorter, so you can see if I put on Night Stalker, your Shadow Dance is only a 3-second duration, but you put on Subterfuge and it is now a 5-second duration, which is basically equates to pretty much like a whole another ability. So as opposed to only being able to get in 2 or maybe 3 Shadow Strikes in during Shadow Dance, you can get 4, or you can get 3 in and a finisher if you're maintaining your energy well. So really that's just going to come down to the map, whether it's better to get a full Shadow Strike or your finisher in during that time period, or if it's better for less of them to hit 15% harder. I think it'll probably end up leaning more towards Subterfuge, but I might be wrong. I haven't done the math on that. The last one is Shadow Focus, where your abilities cost 20% less energy while Stealth or Shadow Dance are active. So basically the whole thing falls back on again. You can get more abilities in because you're not having to necessarily worry about energy as much. But I think this would be a lower DPS option than either of these two. I think Subterfuge would probably be the highest, with Night Stalker being close to that. It might be better. I don't know. I haven't checked the numbers, but I think both of those are going to be better options than Shadow Focus. Next up, this is the same for Subtlety as it is for the other two specs. It's kind of your combo point management tier. So you have Vigor as a passive, where your maximum energy is increased by 50 and your energy regeneration rate by 10%. So baseline, you have 100 energy. This would give you 150, generating 10% faster. So that's just going to speed the gameplay up for the class. You're going to have a higher energy pool, and it's going to be regenerating faster. So it's going to speed up your gameplay. Your other option is Anticipation, where you may have a maximum of 8 combo points. Finishers still consume a maximum of 5 combo points, so this just gives you a cushion to avoid wasting combo points. Which, with the longer Shadow Dance from Subterfuge, Anticipation might be really good, just because you do generate a lot of combo points, and if you're AoEing with Shuriken Storm, you do generate a lot of combo points for all your targets hit, and if you pop Shadow Blades, it's going to be even more combo point generation, and you don't want to waste those. So Anticipation might be a good talent, just kind of for having that cushion. Your other option is Deeper Stratagem, the one we kind of looked at earlier. It's a passive where you have a maximum of 6 combo points, and your finishing moves consume up to 6 combo points, and they deal 20% increased damage. So you can see, if I go to, I can't find the abilities, Nightblade, you can see that it's going to hit a lot harder. It's going to stay up for longer if you use it with 6 combo points, because you get the double benefit of using an additional combo point and having a 20% increase on damage. I do believe that those are 2 separate effects. It's not like the 6 combo point is 20% more damage. I think they multiply or add. Next up, this is kind of your defensive tier. So Elusiveness is still the same as in Warlords, where Feint also reduces all damage you take from non-area of effect attacks by 30% for 5 seconds. So normally Feint just has the AoE damage reduction by 50%. This causes it to reduce all damage by 30. So that's really, really good for reducing damage that you know is coming from mechanics or abilities in the boss fight. I'm just going to leave auto attack up so you can kind of get an idea of how your auto attacks generate combo points. Your other option, you have Cheat Death, which is a passive where fatal attacks instead reduce you to 7% of your maximum health for 3 seconds. Afterwards, you take 85% reduced damage. Cannot trigger more often than once per 2 minutes, so as opposed to dying from an ability, every 2 minutes you will be reduced to 7% health and take reduced damage. So this is really good. It can allow you to solo some abilities that sometimes require multiple players in the raid to participate in. Your other option is Soothing Darkness, which is another passive that's new, where you heal for 3% of your maximum life every 1 second while stealth is active. So, see if I can get in stealth here so you can get an idea of how much this is going to heal for. It's not wanting to show up. Probably because it's overhealing at this point. But anyway, I mean, you can do the math, get an idea what it's going to be like. So every time you're in stealth, this applies to Shadow Dance, this applies to Vanish. While it's up, you're going to heal for 3% of your maximum life every 1 second. And this is nice. I mean, you're going to be going in and out of stealth with your Shadow Dance, with things like that. Passive healing could be really good as far as staying alive, but I still think I'm a bigger fan of preemptive damage reduction just because you have that control. I mean, you have that, okay, I know a mechanic's coming, I need to reduce it, I'm going to use Feint. I do like this a lot better than the Iron Stomach, which just increases your Crimson Vial, just because that's more of a reaction thing. You have to stay alive to then click Crimson Vial to heal. Choosing Darkness is passive, and it's a natural part of playing Subtlety Rogue, so that is, in my opinion, better as a potential option. Next is kind of your stun tier. Prey on the Weak is a passive where enemies disabled with your Blind, Kidney Shot, Cheap Shot, or Sap take 10% increased damage from all sources. That is not just the rogue, but all sources. So if you're in a raid and there's a stunnable target, you use any of these stuns on it, or Blind, or anything, and they're going to take 10% increased damage from the entire raid. You also have Strike from the Shadows, where Shadow Strike, which is your main damage dealing stealth ability, it also stuns your target for 2 seconds. Players are dazed for 5 seconds instead. So this will probably have some PvP utility, but you know, as far as like a raid goes, it could be good. You know, like let's say you have Infernals dropping in Mythic Archimon, and you're trying to keep an Infernal in place, and obviously you're saving some cooldowns for that, so every time you Shadow Strike, it's going to stun it, and it's not going anywhere. So, I mean, that could be okay. Your other passive is Nightblade now decreases the target's movement speed by an additional 20%. So, that Nightblade debuff has a standard speed reduction of 50% when you attack it. If you put on Tangled Shadow, that is now a 70% movement speed reduction, which is a lot. That is a huge movement speed reduction, so that could be really good potentially for PvP. I mean, either one of these could have really good use for PvP. Next up, this is going to be kind of your combo point generation tier, or your self buff tier. So right now I have on Premeditation, where your Cheap Shot and Shadow Strike generate 1 additional combo point. So because you're using Shadow Strike a lot, each time you use it you would get 1 additional combo point, and that causes your Shadow Dance phases to build you a lot of combo points. But you know, if you run Alacrity, your Shadow Strike is only generating 1 combo point, which isn't a whole lot. So that kind of stinks. Alacrity is a passive where your finishing moves have a 20% chance per combo point to grant 1% haste for 20 seconds, stacking up to 25 times. So, use a 5 combo point finisher, you get 1% haste, stacking up to 25 times, that's 25% additional haste. This could be okay. Haste was not super important for Subtlety Rogues in Warlords of Draenor, but I mean 25% haste is a considerable amount, but it almost seems kind of out of place for me, just because Premeditation is about building additional combo points faster, so you can do more finishers quicker, which are going to have a chance to restore your Shadow Dance charges, which is what Subtlety Rogue is all about. So the haste buff here kind of feels a little bit out of place to me. I think you'll probably end up going with one of these other options. Enveloping Shadows is kind of interesting. It's very different. It's a finishing move that costs 25 energy, that generates 1 combo point every 3 seconds, and it lasts longer per combo point spent. So if you do a 5 combo point Enveloping Shadows for 30 seconds, every 3 seconds you're going to generate a combo point. So this could, in my opinion, potentially be strong for helping Subtlety Rogues maintain their Shadow Dance buffs by generating more combo points, because when you have Enveloping Shadows up, you are getting combo points from that every 3 seconds. You're getting combo points from your auto attacks, You're getting combo points from backstab if you choose to do that, and it's gonna, I think, speed up the gameplay substantially, and it's gonna allow you to have more charges of Shadow Dance, because when you do more finishers, you have a higher chance for Deepening Shadows to proc, which restores your charges, and it just multiplies. You play a lot faster, so it's an interesting ability. It could be really strong for a single target fight. Now, when you're AoEing, obviously you can use Shuriken Storm, and that's going to help you out as far as combo point generation goes. But for single target, you might need that extra generation coming from Enveloping Shadows. And we'll have to see how the numbers work out. The last tier is the same for Death from Above and Mark for Death. We'll still look at those, but Master of Shadows is different. It's a passive where you immediately gain 30 energy when you enter stealth or activate Shadow Dance. Okay, so let's say you're running Master of Subtlety. Let's say you're running Night Stalker. Okay, all those things are going to increase the damage you're doing while you have Shadow Dance active, or while you use a Vanish. So naturally, having access to Shadow Strike, having access to Symbols of Death, that's where most of your damage is going to come from. And so what this does is it allows you to be at energy cap easier for Shadow Dance damage. So otherwise, you just kind of have to wait. Let's say you've been building combo points, you want to do a Shadow Dance, you have to wait for your energy to get all the way up, because you want to be able to do as much damage as possible. You want to be able to Shadow Strike as much as possible. Master of Shadows is going to give you 30 energy automatically when you enter into Shadow Dance. So instead of having to wait to be at or close to 100, you can wait until you're at or close to 70. Then you use your Shadow Dance and you gain 30 energy, and you're at cap and you're ready to go nuts. So because Shadow Dance is such a huge part, I think this might be a really strong ability that is going to help you manage your energy. Mark for Death is still the same as it was. It's a 30-yard range, 1 minute cooldown. You mark the target, instantly generating 5 combo points. The cooldown resets if the target dies within 1 minute. I haven't run the numbers, but I just can't see how Subtlety would get a huge benefit from Mark for Death, because even if you're running multi-target, I don't think that it's going to be super useful, just because I don't know, it's just hard to see how it's going to work, because I can't see you using Mark for Death and throwing a Nightblade up on an ad that's going to die quickly. Maybe it's going to be a stronger ad. It could be okay. Maybe you could just throw up a 5-point Eviscerate on it and it dies, and you're doing finishers just to try and get your Shadow Dance up faster. That might be okay, but I don't know. We'll just have to see how it plays. The big benefit from it is if the target dies, the cooldown is gone. You can Mark for Death more and get more finishers in and regenerate your Shadow Dance faster. So that could be good. We'll just have to see what kind of encounters we're looking at for Legion. The last one is Death from Above. Kind of similar to how it is in the other specs. 25 energy, 15-yard range with a 20-second cooldown. It's a finishing move that empowers your weapons with shadow energy and performs a devastating 2-part attack. You whirl around, dealing up to 14,160 damage to all enemies within 8 yards. Then you leap into the air and eviscerate your target on the way back down with such force that it has a 50% stronger effect. So basically you have that light AoE element and then a 50% stronger eviscerate. So you would just want to use that every 20 seconds as you could, rather than using just your standard eviscerate. So personally, if I had to guess, for a single target, I think you're definitely going to want to run Death from Above or Master of Shadows. running multi-target, Mark for Death might be good if there's some ads that you can help damage that are going to die and allow this to be used multiple times in a fight, because Mark for Death gets better the more you can use it in a fight, because it's more combo points, more damage. So that could be really strong for some multi-target fights. We would just have to see how it plays. So with that being said, let me just kind of give some concluding thoughts on the class. First, let's get the good out of the way, right? Let's talk about what's good first. And I've said this in other videos, but it's very important, so I'm going to say it again. Rogues are stronger now defensively than they ever have been. Okay, with us having Evasion, with us having Cloak of Shadows, with us now having Crimson Vial, okay, with us still having Feint, even buffed by Elusiveness if we want, with us having Cheat Death or Soothing Darkness with that passive healing that you're going to have all the time when you're in stealth, which is going to be a lot. Now, we have an incredible amount of survivability, and that's going to be, I think, really huge in Legion, and it's always huge in progression rating. The reason it's going to be huge is healers are going to have a more difficult time. They have to be more careful about managing mana. That's what all the videos are saying right now. And they have to be more careful about who they choose to heal, whether that be a tank or somebody else. And so having rogues that you don't necessarily have to worry about as much, and who are going to be coming in really low on the damage taken meters, and who have that survivability, it's going to be really good as far as securing you a raid spot goes. And it's going to make you have the potential to be a really strong player that can survive, because DPS that are dead don't do a lot of damage. But if you can live, you're going to be able to pump out some damage for your raid. Okay, which leaves me with the bad. I am a huge fan of Subtlety as it is right now in Warlords of Draenor on live servers. I love the way the class plays. I love the way it feels. And the main reason I think it boils down to is control. I think you have a very high amount of control whenever you play Subtlety as it is currently on the live servers. You have very clear DPS windows that you can provide the most damage. I think that level of control requires a higher skill cap than a lot of other specs, and certainly more so than combat or assassination right now. So I think it's definitely a harder spec, and that's caused some people to kind of shy away from playing it. They've chosen assassination or combat instead. Okay, but I think the rewards are huge there. I think by being able to master the rotation and master the control that the spec offers and be really creative with gameplay, you get a lot of damage. It's very fun, it's very exciting, and I like a challenge. I like a challenge, and I think Subtlety offers that. I think that the new Subtlety 1 has a lower skill cap, which might be nice for you. If you're a casual player, you might like that. You might want to play Subtlety and not be stressed about, did I do everything perfectly there? Okay, maybe you find that appealing. Personally, I don't. I feel like the skill cap is lower. I feel like the amount of control you have is lower, and quite frankly, I think the spec just isn't as fun. And for me, that's what this game boils down to. WoW is about having fun, so even though I want to raid competitively and I want to be able to perform really well as far as numbers go, I want to have fun. I want to enjoy what I'm playing, and right now, I don't enjoy the new Subtlety, because there are times where if you are even doing everything right, and you are doing your rotation perfectly, if you have bad luck with numbers and you're not getting Deepening Shadows to proc, you're going to have these huge dry spells where you don't have Shadow Dance available, and you're just kind of twiddling your thumbs because most of your damage comes from Shadow Dance. So unfortunately, I think most of these changes, at least right now, okay, not looking at a full artifact, not looking at tier bonuses, not looking at trinkets, anything like that that might change the gameplay, I think the class, or the changes to Subtlety have made the class a lot less exciting, a lot less challenging, and I think you see that in the rewards. I don't think the damage output is as strong or as worthwhile for me as a player who's wanting to have fun. And so even numbers wise, if you're a numbers guy, Subtlety I believe is coming in way below Assassination for damage. Okay, but maybe you like the Shadow style gameplay, maybe you like the changes. I'd love to hear your thoughts, I'd love to hear your comments. Even if you totally disagree, you say, "Sang, you're an idiot," tell me that. I'd love to work that out with you, I'd love to talk with you. If you found this video helpful, you feel like you learned something from it and you're more prepared and you feel like you understand Rogue a little bit better, please leave a comment down below. That will help us out as a guild very much. Like I said, we are Exiled Power, a 13 out of 13 Mythic guild, top 2-day rating guild on Arthas on the US servers, and I am Sang. I hope this was helpful and I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next time. Thanks.